started in 1956 when yogic master Dr. George King heard a physical voice in the room and said, "You, Dr. George King, have been chosen as the voice of the Interplanetary Parliament." It's not a joke. Well, it is. Yeah, so I didn't want to go for that, but it would have been fun. And soon, they sort of like start reading the Bible to you. I think they're like a jazz music freak friend of mine who thinks that you love jazz just as long as you listen to it. And they're constantly trying to get, reading a bit about Isaiah, and they go, and then in the next life, the leopard shall lie with the lamb. It's like, lie with leopard? Lie with the leopard will lie with the lamb in a biblical sense. I mean, I'm not into interspecies paedophilia one bit, and I mean it's. But a shepherd, amazing animal. Beautiful wool, a bitch to shear. And so then we carried on to, and the interesting thing about, Jehovah's Witnesses, what do they believe? No Christmas, no blood transfusions, and the cool thing that they have, and this has made me think, was that God, after the Garden of Eden, he just left. And he doesn't come back, and he doesn't interfere with life, and he doesn't, he has no power on earth in the slightest, because he just said, right, you disobeyed me. I only asked you guys to do one thing. I only asked you not to eat of the tree of knowledge, and you did it. So if you think you can run Earth, if you think you're big enough to do that, then do it. It's pretty much the equivalent of the, if you're so clever, why don't you teach the class? And then I think he just left, slammed the moon behind him. And for them, they see that everything, they think that the Earth is going hugely wrong. They think that there's death, disease, environments are going to hell. And I am of the other belief that I think that, the Earth is pretty great. And that, we were left here, Adam was left here, on Earth with what? Just some sleeves on his balls. Just some leaves on his balls and his mind. And God had given us smallpox. We beat that. God left polio for us. We beat that. We've now got heart disease to beat. Can we hear it for Heart UK? I think we can beat that too. And the thermostat is fucked. Sure. We'll do the last thing we did when your design fucked up. We'll build a better one. And so they think that we have got to beg God in order to come back to Earth. And I think that treat him mean, keep him keen. He hasn't come back yet. We've been begging him to come back. We've been on our knees. The phone's been ringing the whole time. He's just been sitting in the moon playing PlayStation. Stop calling him. And maybe what our responsibility is to see how hard we can rock Earth. Who's with me on that? Who's with me on that? They say we've got to beg him. I say free house. I say house party. Let's fill the Grand Canyon with jelly. Let's get ice cream in the Arctic and dance for days under the northern lights. And then we'll see. Then we'll see whether he'll come back. They left. But, then it was Sunday. So that was my Saturday. It wasn't as good as my last Saturday because I discovered a newspaper called the New Zimbabwe. And does anyone here like local papers? Do you have a local, where are you from?
Clapham.
You're from Clapham. Do you have a local paper?
I have no idea.
I think the sad thing is the London Light is the local paper. That reflects our hopes, dreams, our world. It's sad for us. Yeah, the New Zimbabwe had my favourite story in it. It was a man given suspended sentence for having sex with cow. because it contained the best excuse I'd ever heard. It was, "You just happened." Because I could see, you know, maybe everyone's been in this situation when you're lying in bed after a party with a friend of yours, and you know then maybe sex might just happen. But I've seen cows and I've never had sex with them, it's never just happened. And that seems a sort of like, you know, some form of Tarzan with a boner and he was just swinging through the vine. You know, lucky I hit it. There, you know, I just don't see. And in Zimbabwe, you get sent to jail for reading a newspaper, whether it's the London Night or the New Zimbabwe. And who was his lawyer to get him a suspended sentence? You know, he must have been some sort of like, you know, Zimbabwean Perry Mason, and we know how he rolls. You know? Because maybe, just maybe, it is my client who is the victim here. The victim of a love, like Oscar Wilde, that society does not understand. Maybe he is a victim, like many of us have been, of having slept with someone he is embarrassed about. Maybe that is why he did it in the dark. And it must be remembered that no one was hurt. My client is no bull. And if beauty and love can come from agriculture, I think that is a good thing. And he got his suspended sentence. It was just that there was, what was it? He would be sent to jail if he committed similar offences. Similar? What's that, like no public displays of affection? Is it like no sex with cows, not even a hoof fetish? Or will he be back in front of the judge and his lawyer in a year and go, "You were discovered with your elephant tusk in your bum. Covered in that bullshit was filleting a giraffe. That is still similar." You just happened. But that was like, you know, if you'd asked me, you know, sort of like, before I'd read that story, whether that was, you know, the best excuse I'd ever heard, you know, actually I read that last Saturday, if you'd asked me on Sunday and said, "Is that the best excuse you'd ever heard?" I'd have said number one. If you'd asked me on Sunday evening, "Is that the best excuse you'd ever heard?" I'd have said number one. If you'd asked me on Monday, "Is that the best excuse you'd ever heard?" I'd say number one. If you'd asked me on Tuesday, I'd said competition over. Hand in the trophies, hand in the cups, because the best excuse in the world has landed. Can we do a drum roll, please, everyone? Just like that. I didn't do it. I just had sex with her dead body. Because when necrophilia is the excuse, you know you've done something pretty wrong. I'd have loved to be in the interrogation centre when they went, "We've got you banged to rights. You're covered in her blood. We got your DNA inside it. We got your bite marks on her. You're going down." And it's good to imagine the defendant as a sort of Cary Grant figure, maybe. You know? With a neat side parting, maybe a cravat. I didn't do it. I just had sex with a dead body. Because not only is it the best excuse ever, it's also the best use of the diminutive just.